I was saying with a bunch of engineers, we still seem to have problem making simple systems work. Our next meeting will be the fifth Thursday. The third Thursday of the month. It will be in this room. And I will have 4 setups for shooting macro, go over a little bit of the presentation I did last year on macro photography, and then it'll all be about shooting. Some of it will be simulated natural light. Some of it will be artificial light. Some of it will be strobes. But the purpose of the meeting is really to try to help everybody get a handle on their macro shooting. Berlin, I'll give you a microphone, sir.
All right. So you know about the library show. We've extended the deadline for submissions to the 4th, as you see here. That's to give everybody a chance. What's that?
This one's a little delayed.
Okay, technical difficulties. Please stand by. There are instructions on the website, right on the homepage. It'll tell you how to submit to the show. Well, you put pictures on there so that everybody can see them. There's really enough room here where everybody should be able to display 5, 16 by 20 photos. Yes, pretty much.
It's not a juried show.
It's not a juried show. You don't have to be judged worthy or anything like that. You don't have to pay an admission fee. It needs to be framed and matted, or well, it doesn't have to be matted, but it has to be framed. And with a wire hanger like this one. This frame comes from Amazon. They are 2 for $44 with the mat, with the wire hanger. All you got to do is print the picture and put it inside. And we will get you that link on the website. So it's really easy. Amazon has them in stock. They can deliver them next day. It's not like you got to wait for a week from China or something. As noted again, the deadline has been extended to the 4th so that everybody has time. Just find 2, 3 good pictures that you really like and print them in a little 11 by 14, put them in a 16 by 20 frame. See, well, then you don't have to do anything. You got no excuse. Just bring some pictures. And then you actually hang them on the 15th, and then we'll take them down a month later. And that's really all there is to it. Yeah, there'll be a bunch of us. No, we still want the submission deadline on the 4th. So bring the pictures that you have submitted to the gallery online. No, digitally. So you submit them to the website, and then you have to physically bring them to hang them at the library. And someone was asking me earlier if it would be okay if they had a friend do that because they would be traveling on that day. And yes, that is perfectly fine too. You know, it's like not some high security museum or something. It's a library. Uh, 20 by 34 should be fine. 20 by 24, that should still be fine. I don't think we're going to run out of space.
I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. If it is, then you only get 4. Okay. Any other questions? Nope. Then whoever's next.
We have a 5th Thursday this month. It will be the 29th of February. We're meeting at a newly opened brewery and tap room, which is just next door to Victory Tap, actually one door separated from Victory Tap where we met before. So it'll be the same sort of 5th Thursday get together. They'll have a food truck and lots of beer.
All right, so we'll get into is mine? This microphone should be on. Is that playing through the? Is it on? I feel like I hear myself in the room. Is that better now? Okay. All right, so the first is the basic. We had six entries. And I'm just going to go through all of them so that you can see them, and then we'll go through it a second time and the judges will give critiques. All right, so we'll go through them again, and then each one will get a critique from the judges. It's on.
Hi, everybody. This is my first time judging, so here goes. This is skateboard color crash. My take on this is that it's a unique and creative subject. I liked the composition. I liked the cropping. I thought that was good. Muted colors tend to a feeling of well-used old skateboards. But on the other hand, the title of this photo includes the words color crash. So maybe this would have led us to get colors that were more intense or would pop a little bit. Overall, the photo would benefit from straightening and clarity.
Here, you've got two bids.
All right, this one's mine. Oh,
Well, I was thinking on the skateboard, you previously.
sorry.
Previously liked
back
this.
side.
Oh, are we talking? Okay,
Yeah,
we're
we're-
discussing.
We have a dissenting opinion.
Discussion here.
Not the dissenting opinion, it's just, this is verging on, someone else's art, because someone was very creative with these skateboards. And I don't see much added to it other than taking a photograph of a creation. And I see a different interpretation for color crash than Arlie did, and I'm seeing the colors have crashed against the concrete many, many times.
Okay. Okay, so as you're all aware, we've changed the format up a little bit this year with the judges talking, and so you're probably going to end up having all of us talk about every image. So I'll keep my comments short. I respectfully disagree with Bill's approach. This is a piece of art, if you will, that someone has created with these skateboard surfaces. I think it's interesting because I think the photographer saw this and wanted to say, here, look at this. This is interesting to me. I'm not sure about color crash is okay. I think maybe it's about skateboarders wiping out. Maybe, I don't know. That might be part of it. But I think it's an interesting photograph. I like the shapes. What I think could have been handled a little bit, I'll say better. I hate using that word, but I think the image might be a little bit more successful if the photographer had lined up with the center properly and gotten all of the lines even and geometrically fixed. And this could have been done in post as well. Despite the fact that we have cropped to the subject or what appears a subject, I think we could have managed it because we're a little off center here. We're a little to the right of center. And I'm not sure that's what the maker intended to be obvious. And it's enough to bother me personally, but again, that's one person's opinion. So.
Okay, here's the second one.
Okay, so this one is mine. So there's some critique comments on the website. I'll just kind of sum up here, which is that while the light rays are interesting, there's not much here. Okay, it's a beautiful color. It's a beautiful color, but the light rays are not enough to hold the attention. And once you see the geometry of them, then you're looking around for something else here. And I feel like there's not enough content to hold the viewer's attention here. The foliage at the bottom seems an afterthought. I feel like it could have been cropped out. And the sandbar or island or whatever you've got in the middle just appears to be kind of a secondary element that doesn't really add anything. So I'm not really sure what we're supposed to be paying attention to other than the light rays. And I'm not sure I feel that is enough for a terribly successful image.
Anyone else?
The light rays catch my attention, but I also not sure where the origin of some of them are. So I'm not sure whether that's in processing or just the freak of nature in this particular scene. I like the sun coming across the water. I'll agree with Gary that we could have probably cropped out or removed the foliage in the foreground, very little line there. But the major attributes of the image are the sun and the sun reflection off of the water.
I tend to agree. I didn't find a whole lot that just drew me into this
In this?
photo. Yeah, the sun rays. And I mean, I like the rays, I like the colors, but there's not as much interest as I would like to have.
The little girl enjoying ice cream is just darling. She is so cute, and she has ice cream. She has ice cream everywhere. So that just, and for me, just makes the image. Her eyes have some nice catch lights in them, but look a little soft. You could watch the focus on that. Even the little bits of yellow in her hair, everything seems to add to the image. And then you realize that, and it's hard to see on the screen here, that her left hand is cropped off almost at the wrist. And it's like, that's a no-no if you can absolutely avoid it. The other nits here is the triangle in the upper right of the image draws my attention because it's brighter than the rest of the background, but a real good job of having good light on the subject's face.
I agree mostly. Her eyes just draw me into this photo. And yeah, it's clear that she's got ice cream everywhere, pops of color in her accents, her jewelry accents. Agree, the left hand has been omitted from the photo. I think it's a great shot. Other than that, you know.
The ice cream cone looks like a weapon.
So I agree with what my fellow judges have pointed out already. I think the eyes are probably suffering from motion blur. It's hard to tell because they are a touch soft, but on the strong side, the catch lights are terrific. I think that the background is wonderfully successful. So I think the maker got a great angle here with the little girl, the subject. And was able to create a background that is not distracting. And I imagine in this situation, it was probably really difficult to do that. Probably lots of things going on outside the frame. Same comments on the cropping. It's difficult, mostly given her size and body proportions of somebody this size, that you want to try to follow the rules, if you were, of cropping with body joints. I think also, successfully speaking, that there is an interesting plaintiveness in her expression, in her face, that I think probably says a lot to the viewer. So I think that is an extremely successful component of this image.
Barberton Daisy is mine. I think this is a beautiful capture of a daisy after a rain. I think there's a nice bokeh, excuse me, the colors are complementary. I like the fact that this is an off-centered composition. It adds interest and draws me in. The point of focus, however, appears to be the water drops that are on the top petals, and the center lacks clarity. I would encourage the maker to continue to work on these compositional ideas and improve focus and clarity of the intended area of focus.
When I first saw this image, it was like, wow, and I saw it as a thumbnail. And then when I looked at it, the lack of depth of focus in the front of the image is just a disappointment. I'd like to see the image stop. If I remember correctly, the camera wasn't stopped down a lot. And the lens could have been stopped down and gotten quite a bit more depth of field, which would have really, really improved this image.
So my initial perception of this image is aligned with Bill's in that I was like, wow, this is great. And then I too looked closer, and it's unfortunate that there are some technical issues with it, because the composition is very nice. The color palette is outstanding. The limitation of the orange, the red, the green is terrific. That focus, the field or the layer of focus is not where I think we want it as viewers, and so that's unfortunate. I would encourage the maker to consider toning down those reds so they're not as bold, and also maybe darkening the background, the greens a little bit. You can modify the luminance in post to tone things down and make sure that the eye is really on that daisy, no matter what. But overall, well seen. I think a great approach. You know, the things we're talking about are unfortunate, but there's a lot of strong stuff here that I think is very successful.
Very good eye.
Yeah. This one's mine. More flowers. Got a calla lily here. Again, I think I find the palette is excellent because we're limited to basically two colors, a yellow green and a purple, maroon, whatever color you want to call that. The detail in the droplets adds a lot of texture and interest to the blossom, as well as that yellow edge and the little tip of the blossom. So it's lots of really good stuff here. What I think is needed here is a crop. I think we need a vertical crop. The space on the left and right side is not adding anything. And by allowing the space on the right with those yellow blossoms in the lower right corner, you're distracting the eye from the calla in the first place. And I don't think the maker wants that. I'm going with what I perceive to be the intent of the maker here, to be very clear. So I think a vertical crop and basically not putting that calla in the center. Because it's facing a little bit to the left. Let's have the calla a little bit to the right of center and facing into the frame, right? And maybe make a portrait out of it. You're making a portrait of a flower, treat it like a portrait, right? And do something fun. Lower the brightness of the background, darken that background as well, so that the vibrancy is there, but it's just not as grabbing of the eye. So, but overall, again, well seen, lots of good stuff here.
I agree. It's easier to just say that, right? Great clarity, great colors. I would have suggested cropping as well to get a little less of a different focus, a little off center for the flower. Great shot though. I think it's really good.
Every time you get an opportunity and see something like this, shoot it, because it makes a beautiful image. But the crop can be improved, but I love the sharpness and detail in the water droplets. All right, this one is mine, and it looks like something that should be hung over a big fireplace, bigger than this screen is. The maker put real effort in this to be at the right place at the right time of day, in the right season, and then got good clouds and light to really make a nice image. The sharpness in the foreground and some of the foreground is a little bit distracting. And then in the middle ground, we lose detail. And I would love to see that whole creek that just runs through the whole image from lower left to upper right. Because it would add to the 3 highlighted buttes, which are just gorgeous here.
Yeah, I think the little river or creek or whatever kind of gets lost as it gets closer to the mesas and plateaus. It's in a fairly good placement because I've always learned that it's nice to have a leading line that's lost a little bit in the middle of the picture. I would have loved to have been closer because I just would like to be closer, but I love the colors. And I think it's a really great shot.
Yeah, we had fun talking about this one. I personally found it very compelling. The light is really, really nice. I like the haziness of the shot. I think that is a definite addition to it. The line of the river / creek, whatever that is, from lower left to middle right, I think is very interesting. I'm not too sure about that foreground on the right side, but it's neither here nor there.
It's
This
a little
looks to me,
bright.
pardon?
It's a little bright.
Yeah, it's a little bright. This looks to me like a matte painting for a movie, right? This looks like a background matte painting for a movie. And so for me, I think that's interesting. But overall, lots of great stuff here. And, we all want to go to Monument Valley. What can I say?
That's right.
I just want to say that even though these are basic images for the more beginners in the group, you're getting, full critiques, and just take those with the understanding that it's learning. Some of it sounds a little bit harsh sometimes, but I think that it can be, if you take it in the idea of learning, and then some of the stuff they might be talking about techniques you don't know yet if you're new to photography. But one of the things that we've been talking about is trying to have a mentor program where you could team up with some of the people that have been in the club longer to help you learn to do edits and some of the stuff that they were talking about that you might not have even started doing yet as a basic photographer. But we'll go on and show the judge's choice. So second was the Bhutanese girl enjoying ice cream.
Is Leslie here?
Oh,
Would you like to talk about this?
Hold on.
He's gonna bring you a microphone.
Yeah, we were in Bhutan in the fall and we were in a market, and I love taking pictures of people, especially kids. And I saw this little girl and just kind of interacted with her and took a picture. Pretty much it.
Cool. Congrats.
Thanks.
Okay, and then the first place was this monument sunrise.
Who was that? Vasu? Is Vasu here? Nope. Okay.
And I was thinking it was a road, but and not a creek or a river, but whatever. Okay, and so now we'll go through these and show the viewer's choice. And this is where everyone in the room had the opportunity to vote on these. And so on this, we'll have a bronze, silver, and gold. So in this one, the bronze choice came out to be Monumental Sunrise. Silver was the daisy. And the People's Choice Gold was the. Okay, so now we'll get to the intermediate level, and I'm going to cycle through all the pictures again quickly so that you can see them all. Then we'll go through with the judges.
I'm going to read the titles. Cabin in the Smokies. Snowy Egret Fishing. Eclipse over Garner. Icelandic Church. Sunset Glow. The Dragon. Alone at Last. A duck, a heron, and an egret go into a bar. Umber quads. Pattern interrupted. Crochet church. Mountain flowers. Annol.
All right, we'll go through it again and we'll get some professional judging. Lots of
Cabin
per-
in the Smokies. I have not been to the Smokies, other, my other two fellows, judges up here have been. So I've not seen this in real life, but I found that it's inviting. It's, let me, I like the fact that there's sunlight on the porch. You can see sunlight inside of the cabin and the open door is like inviting. The path is one of those leading lines that takes you to the cabin, like the placement of the path beginning at the photo corner. The colors on my monitor were bright and vibrant, with subtle browns. I feel the photo might benefit from cropping from the bottom. I think there's plenty of path to still lead you into the cabin. Then there's some roots along the path a little closer to the cabin. I think they would become more prominent and more interesting. So overall, I think this is a good photo.
So I agree with everything said. I especially like the texture of the trees. I think it's very successful. I think the modeled lighting is very interesting. Typically, I'm not a fan of that on small subjects like faces, but here it worked very well for the maker in that you've got that splash on the porch wall as well as just the side of the cabin, and then coupled with the lovely leading line. I'm going to say here, how many of you have seen The Fabelmans, the movie The Fabelmans? So, okay, y'all need to see it. It's a Steven Spielberg biopic. And I'll give away here. At the end, he goes and talks to John Ford. And John Ford says, if the horizon's at the top, it's interesting. If the horizon's at the bottom, it's interesting. If the horizon's in the middle, no. Okay, horizon's in the middle here. So that couples with what Arlie was saying about cropping from the bottom. The walkway is fascinating, but there's a lot of space there that isn't really helpful. Okay, so a slightly different approach, I think, would make a stronger image, is my point. Okay, but that said, there's a lot of great stuff here, and I think it's a very successful image.
I've shot this once and we'll probably shoot it again this spring. And it's a beautiful place. And when I look at this, what I would like to see is the side of the building and the unlit part of the building stand out a little bit more, a little sharper, a little more saturated, so that it really grabs your attention. And though Gary's a fan of the modeled light, I think the modeling could be pulled down a little bit, just the difference between the bright and the darker could be a little less. It's a lot of editing, but I think it would add to the image.
See, this one's mine, right? Yeah, okay. I think I'm leaving on this one. So snowy egret fishing. So I tried to be as comprehensive in the comments, written comments as possible. I think this image has got a lot of great stuff with it. I think it could be improved in a number of ways. For me, okay, because my distinguished judges don't agree with me on these points, so I'm giving you my perspective. I think a crop from the bottom and the right would be helpful. I don't think that the whole image of the bird plus reflection is as interesting as the bird's head and water droplets are. I think that's what the subject is. And I think a crop to focus on that would be helpful. I feel like, and I could be wrong, but I feel like the background has been over processed and kind of ruined by an effort to tone it down and make it less obvious. While that does improve the contrast between the subject and the background, which is always a good thing, I find that the background is maybe could be handled in a different way to get the same result or a comparable result. I could be wrong. But overall, the sharpness in the bird and the droplets is really cool. So great moment, lots and lots of fun. And I love the color palette. So I think it's great.
So that's what drew me in, was the sharpness of the water and the beak and the action that the egret is doing. I wasn't bothered by the background or the leaves on the right side, but I can see Gary's point about possibly cropping in. But I like the image, so again, I think it's about the eyes and water droplets that really draw me in.
I'm just sitting here looking carefully at this image again and realizing, though I consider the background distracting and the lack of color in it, that's actually what's reflected in the water. And that would be a real super job of editing if you managed to do both the background and the reflection. But like Arlie said, the water droplets just grab you. It's almost, if you just cropped in and got just the water droplets and the bird's head and beak, would really be an image to look at. Eclipse over Garner. I looked at this for quite a while, and then I realized that way up in the little opening in the sky, up at the very top, just to the left of center, there's an annular eclipse. And it's like, okay, shooting the annular eclipse is something to do. Having a great place like Garner to shoot is a good thing. But there were some real past opportunities or missed opportunities here. If you had chosen to shoot the annular eclipse behind a foreground subject, and you've got the terrain here to have a foreground subject up at that kind of angle, that would be good. But this is just a beautiful image from Garner overlook site. And just the lower half of this image would be a very nice image that I would be proud of claiming as my own. So great job of being in the right place to capture the solar eclipse. I was faced with the same problem, and I focused on just that little area up there and got the sun and the clouds. From the high point that they're shooting here, that's the only thing they could do if they had the lens to do it.
I had the same problem. I looked at this and I said, what a great scenery. It looks a little different with the lighting, but I didn't get the point of the picture until I looked several times and it said eclipse over Garner. And then I looked high and saw that eclipse. So it did get kind of lost. Congratulations to the maker for capturing that, because obviously with all those clouds, it was very difficult to get a picture that showed the eclipse itself.
Lots of patience.
Yeah. And the photo as it is, I think I would have cropped the bottom off to where, like there's that pathway, kind of looks like a pathway of white going up to the mountaintop or whatever we call that. I think I would have cropped to just below that, but it still wouldn't have probably enlarged the eclipse at all. Love the clouds. I think,
Yeah, I don't disagree in any way with the comments shared so far. The colors are great. I love the foliage on the mountain. The problem is that this composition doesn't work based on what the title is telling us. The wide angle lens, the short focal length, it just makes that eclipse very, very tiny. And while it's there, it's not, again, enough to hold the interest of the viewer. The clouds are gorgeous. I love clouds. I'm a big cloud fan, period. I love the texture of the clouds. I love the line of the top of the hill or mountain rather, the way it's shaped. Lots of individual elements here, but from a success standpoint with respect to the title, not so much, unfortunately. But Yeah, I think that this is the kind of thing where you just try to cram in as many ideas as you can into the short period of time you've got, and you just run from thing to thing and try all kinds of different stuff as best you can, because it's hard.
Speaking from my own experience, I'm betting that whoever took that picture was piercing them clouds left and right.
Probably. You know, the fact that we can see it at all is amazing, right? They're definitely cool. So, Icelandic church.
Icelandic church. I've just been to Iceland, so this kind of spoke to me in that respect. This, I mean, I know the area is volcanic, so that becomes clear in the background. To me, this is a church that represents the community in an isolated area, tells the story of people who have been there and passed on. I like the clouds of the add to the somber mood. And I think the focus looked a little soft to me, but it didn't really distract me from anything. Yep, I'll pass on to the next guy.
Well, this is a classic Icelandic church just by proportions and where the steeple is. And most of the churches have small cemeteries around them. But this one seems to have featured the cemetery a little bit. And the focus may be here in the foreground with the tombstones, because as you get to the roof on this building, it's a little out of focus and lacking sharpness. But a very nice capture with the hills behind the church, the green, the lava, the red works nicely against it. The church is well set up against the background. You could have made some mistakes with where you put that on the relative to the mountains. Nicely done.
Yeah, we discussed this one quite a bit too, because it's interesting. So I agree with Bill in that it's not clear this was maybe the ideal vantage point, but we weren't there, so we don't know. Okay, what is very strong in this image is the texture in the sky, the texture in the mountain, and the grass very clear. Maybe not as sharp as it could be, but overall, you know, we can tell what's going on. Color palette's fantastic. The lines here are terrific. You've got the line on the hilltop, I'm saying hilltop, whatever they call it, the hilltop that leads to the belfry. And you've got the line on the other side that leads again to the belfry. And if you're looking at that mountain, my eye ends up on the belfry, which brings me to the church. I'm looking at the church. Now I'm going to go down here and look at these gravestones in the bottom right corner, which form a beautiful line back to the church again. So everything leads back to the church here. And so from this vantage point, incredibly successful composition. You know, I think those are all very strong points. So lots of really good stuff here. Kudos to the maker for those. Was this one mine? Yeah, Sunset Globe, right?
Yep.
Yep, okay. I don't want to start when it's not my turn. So, okay, this is a very interesting image in many ways. The color, the orange is terrific. The complementary colors between the orange and the blue in the sky, terrific. I don't understand the foreground. Aside from it's something in the foreground, it doesn't add anything. There's not much there to look at. There's no single thing that is particularly captivating. And I find that tree or shrub or whatever on the left to be annoying. I don't believe it belongs there. And by being there with the way the image has been processed, we're seeing a halo from the processing around the tree. And I don't see the point to that. Okay, so I would lose the tree on the left at the very least to make this a 5x7, maybe 8x10, but at least a 5x7, and lose that 15% over there. That said, I appreciate the detail in the mountain here back there. I do not like that white thing in the middle. I would have lost that. I would lose that. It's because it's like I'm looking at that white thing. That's the point of highest contrast in this image. right? You've got this beautiful sunset with this orange and these clouds with this orange and blue, and this white thing against almost black is the highest contrast. My eye keeps dropping to that. That's a problem, okay? Turn your image upside down, walk away for a day, and then come back to it and see what you look at first. All right, that is one way to find out if you got distractions in your image, or talk to a friend. That's another choice. Or somebody who used to be a friend, either. Anyways, lots of good stuff here. The texture in the clouds, again, clouds, man, I love clouds. Texture in the clouds are fantastic, especially all this stuff in the middle that happened. So it's a beautiful sunset. It's just some other things that not helping the image be as successful as maybe it could be. But I don't have any suggestions on what you might have done differently because I wasn't there and I don't know where you could move to or look at or whatever. So all I can do is talk about what I see.
I like this image. I didn't see the halo effect that you were talking around the tree. It didn't bother me. I like the fact that there's foreground, middle ground, background. I love the clouds and the colors. I too, though, felt like there's the white thing's probably water, whether that's in frozen form or liquid form, I wouldn't know, but there's a couple of them and they don't really stand out enough to be beneficial to the photo, as far as I'm concerned, unless the midground of the mountains was a little brighter. The clouds really take this photo, take me to it. Thanks.
The clouds drive this image, and I agree with Gary, the left-hand edge is distracting, and moving around so that you have a clearer view of the layers of mountain leading to the sunset would be worth the effort to move if you could. The other thing that I would probably do if I was there to shoot this, I don't hesitate to shoot HDR. I'll shoot the brackets and see if I need them when I do post. If you had a brighter exposure of this front hillside, I think it could add to the image. It wouldn't need to come up much. And I will certainly agree with Gary, the 3 bits of white in that slope are distracting. Oh, the dragon, AKA iguana. Beautiful color, nice sharp eyes. But when you say dragon, I see something frightening coming at me, not moving away from me. There's good texture in the bark. There's good sharpness throughout the image. I like the way that the bokeh and distant background set off the dragon's head. It might be worthwhile cropping in a little bit so you don't crop through the toes on this right rear foot, but come more up in the calf so that it's a reasonable place to crop. Losing the tail doesn't bother me, that it's such a long tail. You'd minimize the dragon if you weren't looking at him head on. The other thing that is a little distracting is the top part of the bark on the tree is much brighter than the iguana and the part of the tree he's resting or he's climbing on.
Yeah, I think this is a great shot of the dragon, the lizard. I too found it kind of sad that the foot was missing and part of the tail. Probably needed to have, like he said, less showing. But the colors and the capture of the lizard was very,
The iguanas
Spot on.
don't take direction well.
yeah, that's true. But and sometimes you just have to catch the shot that you can get because these guys move fast. So it's a great attempt to get a good shot of a lizard.
So yeah, strong points, the focus on the head, the eye, sharp, 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 wonderful, wonderful pose. And the S curve created by the tail up through the body and then to the eye and snout is fantastic. There's space on the top that doesn't need to be there. I think there's a lot of wasted space. And then the crop is unfortunately not ideal because of that right rear foot. I would encourage the maker to consider cropping in tighter, bottom and right. If you're going to lose part of the body, lose part of the body. It's not the worst thing in the world. Bring the focus to what you need it on, and maybe use some post-processing work to take the brightness off of the body in the lower half of the body or something like that, so that we are focused on the head more. But lots of really strong points here. And you know, I think all of us enjoy getting a good shot of a lizard. So good stuff.
Alone at last. There is a feeling of solitude and being on the expanse of water in this photo, sunset. Overall, though, for me, this photo is a little dark, so the sailboat kind of gets lost in that darkness. I think it would have been nice if the sailboat was brighter and more distinct somehow from its surrounding water. I would have suggested cropping part of the top and the bottom of this photo to bring that sailboat closer. I feel like there's a lot of wasted or extra space that doesn't really add to the photo. But the horizon is straight, and I get the idea of this photo.
So I agreed. I definitely cropping, I think, could help here because based on the title, we are presuming that the maker is referring to the boat out by itself, but the boat does get lost. It's a size and brightness. It's just lost, and so it becomes secondary to the image. The dark clouds at the top also, I think, are superfluous. We could have cropped those. And if we did that and brought the horizon up closer to the top, I think we might get away with as much ocean at the bottom as there is, but maybe cropping at the bottom too, maybe from the sides. I don't know, but because I didn't play with it, but I would encourage the maker to explore this to find out what options might bring a more successful completed image based on the idea that I perceive the maker to have had with the title.
Beautiful concept of along the sailboat by itself. But the maker has fallen in love, at least my view, the maker has fallen in love with the reflected sun off of the water in front of the boat. And if you don't follow that line to the boat, you miss the boat. So some dodging and burning could help bring that boat out to emphasize it. And if I were cropping it, I would crop away just above the brightness of the sun. The dark quarter of the image up there, or fifth, provides nothing. And once you did that, you could crop away a large portion of the water and end up with this very narrow image that's just the boat alone with the light and the water.
So I believe this one's mine also. Yeah. Okay. So title. I don't know what the maker is trying to do here. Honestly, if you're going to choose a title for your image, choose a title that makes sense. I don't think this one makes sense because I don't see a duck, a heron, or an egret. These are Canadian geese. Pardon? So I'm not a big fan of the title. I'll just say that I don't think it's successful. That said, the color palette is great. I really appreciate the browns, the blacks, and the bits of blue. Although I think that the blue at the waterline by the geese is distracting. I might have toned that down a little bit. I think that this was shot at 1,000th of a second at a pretty long focal length, if I remember correctly, without looking. It appears there's motion blur. Okay, so at a very long focal length, 1,000th of a second isn't adequate. You need to be faster because in order to freeze motion, you have to understand the geometry of the situation, and I don't think the maker was successful freezing motion. There's blur here that I believe is motion blur. I could be wrong, but I see it that way. So it's unfortunate. What I enjoy about the image, what I think is strong, is that those geese are looking at something, and I want to know what they're seeing. Right, the story here is great. So I'm very interested in what's happening off camera with their attention. And so that doesn't have anything to do with walking into a bar. Okay, as far as well, maybe there's a bar there. I don't know. Somebody serving beer, could be. But you know, there's some very strong, successful things here, and then there are some other elements technically that are less successful to my eye.
So I understood the title. I felt like the first goose, the goose was trying to tell the story to the second, the one behind. But, you know, maybe we could all have lessons in how to title our photographs. I don't know. It is a little soft. I think the goose that is behind is a little bit more fuzzy than the one in the front. There are catch lights. I can see those. The blue in the water, right around this front goose, it feels a little too much. I don't know where that source of the blue is coming from. In the rest of the photo, it seems to add to it. But right in front of the goose, it doesn't really do much for me, but everything else that Gary said, I'll agree with. You know?
The blue is naturally occurring up in the other parts of the ripples, and I don't understand water well enough to tell you why you have that light blue in there. The other thing I noticed about the image is the very harsh shadow of the front goose's head. We know exactly where the sun's coming from. And if I were polishing on this image, I would want to tone down that shadow. Next one, sir. This is mine, and I look at this and think, boy, I'd like to walk up and see this. And, you know, first of all, to see it, you've got to be able to pick it out of the color where all the colors are the same. And that's great for the lion and lioness, and makes it difficult for the photographer to get isolation out of this. The two cubs that are looking into the camera have noticed the photographer. They're the real heart of this image. And as you look closely at them, they're looking at the camera. You might be able to even crop in tighter, and just the lioness and her cubs. But as you look closely at this image, though you see the cub's eyes, they don't have any detail in them. So I'm not quite sure where focus was. But I assume this is a safari shooting from the back of a vehicle. So it took a little patience and a little skill to get this image.
Agreed. It's a nice image. I think it would have been kind of nice to have just a little bit more darkness and in the background to bring out the lioness and her cubs a little bit more. I can't disagree that if he wanted to crop it and get just the two cubs looking at the camera, it would improve it too. I think I would consider, if it was possible, to take that piece of grass that goes across the nose of the far left cub. I think that would be nice to not have that in the image. But other than that, I think this is a great shot.
I wasn't suggesting cropping quite that tight. I would keep the lioness. I would crop down a lot of the background and some of the foreground.
Yeah. So who doesn't love baby lion cubs, right? They're awesome. Always. I agree with the other comments in that I think there's a lost opportunity with a crop. I think toning down the brightness of the mom's fur throughout her torso and hind legs, I think might have helped. Because yes, they're quads, but the two who are nursing are not particularly interesting. It's the two that are looking up that are interesting. So I would encourage the maker to think about what you want us to look at, and let's crop and process to bring our attention to that element or those elements that are for you foremost in your intent with the image.
I was drawn to this photo by the simplicity. And I like the fact that the leaf that seems to be caught in some type of a bench or a weave is a little bit off center. I think the water drops add to reality of this photo. It's the color palette is complementary. I think the real thing though is that these type of images have to be straight. And I would say that it's probably challenging to get all edges straight, but the bottom one, which is closest to the viewer, should have been straightened up. At least that's my opinion. Other than that, I like this photo.
So my I don't like saying I like photos because it's not what really this is about. I think this is a strong image. I think it's an interesting image. It's not a geometrically even image. Okay, I want those vertical lines to be up and down. So we're a little askew, and that to me is distracting. I feel like the leaf was placed there, and just because of the way it's very vertical, that it seems like somebody intentionally put this together. Personally, I'm not a fan of that sort of thing. I like found things. So I would encourage the maker to think about if the leaf had fallen mostly to get where I wanted it to be, what would it look like, right? Would it have been vertical like this, or would it have been maybe turned or somehow? But that's a me thing. It's a me thing. The colors are great. I appreciate the raindrops on the mesh that we can see through. I think is also really cool. So lots of great stuff here. And I think that just a couple tiny things would elevate this image to be even more successful.
The leaf placement just seems contrived to me. So that's to go past that, I have to get past that. And then when I look at this bench material, what's been called water drops, I think is covering over the expanded metal. And if there was just a flaw in that covering or something that organic that had occurred there, and that was your interruption to this pattern, I think it'd be a stellar image. It would really bring it up it would be more appealing to me. Yeah, crochet church is mine as well. Yeah. And this display does not do the church's justice.
So lots of successful elements here in my mind. The use of color with the church building, and I'll refer to them as if they were buildings. The use of the color with the church building to highlight it, I think is a good choice. Whether that particular thing was that color or it has been dealt with in post, I don't know. I don't care because the title tells me I'm looking at the church. The crocheted elements are adorable, and there's a gazebo, and who doesn't love a gazebo? Okay. Lots of wonderful points here that have been arranged very well to create a very engaging still life, and just speaks village to me. So I think that's awesome. I like I think the focus is very successful. The depth of field is successful, as well as the lighting, which I believe comes from the top left. I would encourage the maker to have done something in the bottom right, because I think we're a little dark in our shadows. So I don't know if there's a reflector there or not, but something to help bring a little bit more light in this bottom right corner. I think the least successful element here is probably that vignette. I think it's distracting, and I don't know that it's needed at all. If it is, maybe very little of it. But lots of great stuff here. And I think the makers should be very, very pleased with their efforts, the result of their efforts.
I found this to grab me. I was impressed by the different colors that, I mean, all the white with the shadows and the fact that the church was a little off-white so that it drew your attention to it. There's lighting that is coming into the church, so it looks like there maybe was something placed behind it somehow to illuminate it a little bit inside. It feels like a village to me, and that makes it more successful, I think. The shadowing of the crochet trees and buildings, I think, add to the depth and the three-dimensional aspect of this photo. I think it's very successful.
There was a tremendous amount of effort put into the planning and execution of this image. And it really just takes your breath away when you first look at it. Now, I'm the technical guy, photographer here. So when I start looking at this, I see the shadows, and they're soft to the lower right of these images. I'd like to see those a little softer. And as much effort it went into creating the subjects and lighting them and taking this photograph, just a little bit more attention to the lighting. And I have to agree with Gary. When I saw this as a thumbnail, the first thing that got my attention was the strong vignette, which was probably unnecessary. Okay, I get to talk to this image, and it is an immediate grabs your focus with the bright flowers cascading over the pot. Touches of color up above, the rocks in focus. And then you realize where it's taken from, that you're looking down at a fjord, and this is, telling the story of travel. So the image is beautifully sharp in the foreground, and there's even droplets of water that you can see if you get up close to this. I still have mixed feelings on whether the left-hand side of it is really telling the story or a distraction. And I would probably choose to go a little more focused there, or even less than there is in this one. But the flowers and the foreground are just gorgeous.
So the purple is everything for me here. I am a big fan of purple, period, and this is just for me a very eye-catching image. I'm not necessarily a fan of the water in I'll call it a fjord. I don't know where this is, but I'm assuming Nordic something or other. I'm not a fan of the water or the cruise ships. I can live with the town in the lower left. So I don't know that everything here is successful, and I appreciate that the title is pointing out that these are flowers and we're in a mountainous area, and that's fantastic. I don't know if moving left or right would have helped create an image that that would have been more to the point. I can only work with what's here. So lots of successful stuff. The depth of field and the flowers, I assume planter, and the rock, the stone, granite of some kind probably, with the blurry background, I think is very successful. I love all that. It's just a few elements in the background, maybe not so great. But what I think is most successful about this is from a travel perspective, from a memory perspective. I think the maker is going to look at this and remember being there in that moment. And I think that's a wonderfully successful component of this image.
I think there was creative use of depth of field here, because I think the maker showed us what was important. Yeah, the flowers are beautiful, but also it's the trip.
Anything else to say?
This is my photo. I can't deny it.
She's fessing up here.
I'm fessing up. I took a couple of other shots as well, but I liked this one the best. And my focus was to see, okay, how can I get really sharp depth of field on something that's close and then blur out the rest of it. So it's kind of an exercise in itself. It is Nordic, it is in Norway. And we were on a cruise. So my cruise ship is in the photo as well. I just thought this worked for me because I was able to get those beautiful flowers so sharp, so tack sharp. So what? My photo. Okay.
Keep talking.
Yeah. Do we say that a knoll or a nole? It's this is a great capture, I think, a close-up of the anole in its natural habitat. The colors are nice and natural. I think it's a great bokeh. So the fact that you don't see the tail doesn't bother me at all. Even the tip of the toe was kind of cut off, but that doesn't bother me. I think the eye has good capture light or catch lights in it. And this is the branch adds to it, good focus on the anole.
I like the sharpness in the face and the eye. The eye looks alive. This is one of those eyes that truly helps drive the image. And the softness falling back along the body and the front foot that you can see is not at all off-putting. That's just the image you've got. You've got really sharp details up front, and the rest of the lizard just vanishes into the bokeh.
I'm sorry, I was busy looking up the pronunciation.
Oh.
There's no clear answer apparently, so we're both correct. So I'm gonna stick with what I say. So lizard, yes, the lizard. So yeah, great focus on the eye, the strong diagonal lines from lower left to upper right, just really terrific composition. And I don't mean to be insulting, but I will compare this to the dragon. If you're going to crop your lizard, you do it like this so that the part that you're cropping is blurred and less emphasized. Okay, this is okay, I think, for the most part. And I've taken shots like this myself. So this is kind of what you want to do if you're trying to focus on the head. Lose the tail in the blur. Lose the back limbs in the blur, and it matters much less, I think. But overall, the handling of the color, the brightness of the animal versus the stick and the leaves, I think is great. So it's very clear what the subject is. Lots of great stuff here. And then nailing the focus on the eye. Woohoo. You know?
As I sit and look at this, as we talked about it, I'm looking at the big leaf in the upper left-hand corner that's also sharp. You could do something to tone down the sharpness of that little artificial blur would make it blend more into the background as opposed to standing out as part of the foreground.
Okay.
All right, now we will go through the judges' picks for first, second, and third. Third place went to the snowy egret fishing.
Larry here.
Larry? Yeah, he's second, third.
Red shirt.
Oh, I don't know what you want me to say, but
Hold the mic up to your mouth.
I was out one day and I was chasing around and thought all was lost for the day, and I wandered up on this guy and just kind of got lucky. But I'd been watching him fishing, and I was really disappointed because every time I saw him catch a fish, it was behind one of those little leaves. And I could never get the picture I wanted of getting the fish in the mouth, because what's really nice is when they catch the fish, they actually toss it up in the air and then they catch it.
They don't take
No. But yeah, I was trying to get the sharpness of that water that was spraying up off his beak. And that was basically what, and it was between this and another image that I caught. That I thought this had more action than the other one.
Okay, second place is the Crochet Church.
Is Ed here? Ed?
Well, my wife made these and she puts them out every Christmas and I thought it might be a good subject. It was actually a pretty dull picture until I decided to desaturate everything except the church. And then I kind of liked it. So
Beautiful.
Okay, in first place is the Anole, is the way I would say it.
Was Michael here?
Okay, now we'll go to the People's Choice Awards. The bronze goes to the Umber Quads.
Is Frank here? Okay. I responded to your email.
You did,
I did.
you did. Good job. I don't have anything particular to say. This is like the be there half of F8 and be there, you know, that when the Lions line up like that. And I too spent a lot of time thinking about that damn stem in front of that cub. It's a tricky edit, but everything in the picture is behind the grass anyway, and that's where the lions spend time when they're young and hiding out. And these guys popping out. So half out of laziness because I couldn't figure out how to get it just right, and half because it looked like that. I left it in.
Thank you.
Okay, and the silver is the Anole. Did I? No, whatever.
And now we've already heard from Larry.
Okay. All right. Now we have 5 more images in the advanced group that will be critiqued. But first, we'll go quickly through and look at them.
This one's mine. So,
No, right now we're just looking
oh, I'm sorry.
1,000 points of light. Stand strong before the storm. Lock up. Frozen ready meal. Autumn at Caddo Lake. Okay, now you can talk.
Okay, now I can talk. All right. So this image has a lot of wonderfully successful elements. I appreciate the painterly look, very impressionistic. The use of the reflection is quite nice for me. I believe lily pads and all of the, I guess, blossoms on them. I'm not familiar with this particular species of lily, but all the little yellow dots, I believe, is what the maker is referring to with the title, the 1,000 Points of Light. The problem with the title is that that's only part of the image, and it's not throughout the image. It's only a section of the image, and so I'm not sure. It's not clear to me that the title is reflective of the image as a whole. So in that case, maybe cropping the bottom and getting rid of the sky might be helpful, so that you've got this darker basis. I'm not sure the sky is important at all anyways here in the reflection. But overall, color-wise, content-wise, lots of really successful elements here. I really enjoyed looking at this image. I think it's a very interesting image, and I'm always in awe when people find a reflection that is doing something a little bit different, because it's not just a reflection here, it's the lilies and the reflection together that I think are really cool. So lots of good stuff here.
I agree. Lots of good stuff. It's beautiful. And I can't really say anything more, but agree with a lot of what Gary said. For me, it says 1,000 points of light. And when I look at this photo, I'm just seeing the bottom part a lot, even though it's beautiful up top. I think it would have benefited from maybe a different title, but it's a gorgeous photo and everything is just tack sharp. It's beautiful.
I look at this and I want to see more of what's in the reflection than the water lilies and the lily pads up at the top. So I'm drawn to the blue sky and the hanging moss that seems to go vertical here. But that's the part of the image that really captures my attention.
Our advanced group has always been our weakest titlers.
It's the hard part.
All right, this is my image, standing strong. The title got a little long, but standing strong in the storm or standing strong would be a very nice title. We're missing a little bit of the foreground. It just cropped off by the Zoom meeting bits. But I like the strength of the lighthouse. I like the supporting buildings with it. I like the trees to the left. They seem to add to the weathered and the history of this building where it stands. This is not its first storm. Though we say storm in the title, the upper third quarter of this image doesn't add a lot to the storm and the lighthouse. I would like to see a little less of the sky and more of the lighthouse and more of the trees to the left if they exist. Getting down to just the fine polishing of the image. There's an anemometer on the top of the building that just doesn't seem to go with the story that's being told here. And also the finest little nit is there's grounding wire running up the right-hand side of the building that you can't see in this on this big screen. But as I started looking at this, that kept grabbing my attention.
I found this to be compelling with the storm, impending storm and the darkness of the clouds contrasting with the brightness of the buildings, the trees. I too think that it would have been okay to remove part of the top, but leave the darkest parts of the clouds there. Like this image. I felt it was a strong image. I need to stop saying like, don't I? It's a successful image. I'm working on this, guys. It's a work in progress.
It's hard. It's really hard. Again, clouds, and I'm looking at this, I'm going clouds, and then I read the title and it's not about the clouds. So there's a disconnect there for me. In general, I think that the perspective on the lighthouse and the building and the trees is fantastic, very successful. It just, you know, when you shoot from below, things like that can end up being very imposing. And I think that's what the maker wanted here, because the title suggests this strength, this formidability. And so the shot angle really supports that idea. And I think that's wonderfully successful. The problem here is all this space with the clouds. All right. And so if I go back and I look at something like Ansel Adams' Clearing Winter Storm or Gathering Winter Storm, if you go look at those images, I was just looking them up to make sure I wasn't misremembering what they look like. They're about Yosemite Valley with a storm in it. They're not about the storm with Yosemite Valley as an afterthought. Okay, so take a look at those to compare to this and understand that even when the subject matter was the storm for Ansel Adams, it was really about Yosemite Valley and the storms there. Okay, so I say this, I want to encourage the maker to consider what it is you want us to look at and make sure that you're not distracting us with other things that aren't really pointedly accomplishing your goal. Okay, but the black and white here, fantastic. I love the black and white, the sharpness, the tones are terrific. We've got a full spectrum from very dark to very bright between the building, the trees, and then throughout the clouds. So lots of great stuff here. Yeah, I'll say parenthetically here, we're picking this apart because that's what we're supposed to do. Okay.
We're picking it apart because it's so good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know, there aren't that many perfect images, right? There aren't that many perfect images. And so we're here to like in any situation where you've got a lot of good stuff, you're going to look for the details and we're going to talk about the details. So please don't take this personally. It's what we're paid to do.
They're not paid for it. They're not paid for
Paid.
it. Or I was never paid when I did that.
And always remember, this is all subjective. Every one of us has
Yeah.
our own opinion about
It is
all
an
of
opinion.
this.
It is an
Yeah.
opinion. Yes,
So,
yes.
I spoke to this one. Go ahead. This one is mine. It's called Lockup. And I had the benefit of having somebody explain it to me, but I'm going to read you what I learned on the internet so that you kind of understand how the title works with this photo. Lockup happens when too much force is applied to the brakes, causing the disc to stop or rotate slower than the car's motion. The tire then scrubs along the surface of the track, sometimes creating white smoke. I feel that this is an excellent capture of lockup. You see the white smoke, you see the fact that the front tire is stopped or nearly stopped. You can read the lettering on the tire, whereas the back tire is blurred. So it's still clearly in motion. The background on this lets you know that this car is in a race and is moving. There's plenty of room for the car to continue to move into the frame or move through the frame. So I think the cropping is really good. The colors are vibrant and clear. I think this is a very successful image.
I did not understand this image the first 2 times I looked at it. Okay, and I did not rank it appropriately because I didn't understand it. And it had to be explained to me. And I've taken that as a lesson in that I need to make more effort to try to understand what the maker is trying to impart. And sometimes I'm successful at that, sometimes I'm not. In this particular case, I was not. All right. I did look at the image and it didn't make sense to me. That wheel and that front left wheel being still, so you can see the typeface on it, versus that back left wheel, which is spinning like crazy. It's like, what is going on here? Okay. And not being familiar with race cars and this kind of a subject, it just did not register to me what was happening here. But with some help, thank you, it became clear, and I immediately went, okay, this is wonderfully successful. Okay, the color is terrific. The angle with the diagonal lines, the strong lines are wonderful. The panning is I can't pan, so I'm in awe of anybody who gets a successful panning image. But the panning and tracking of the cars is terrific. And there's so much on this car that is actually in focus. And we know the panning was happening here, but then you've got those back wheels spinning, you've got the smoke, and you've got the movement of the pavement and the signs and everything. So yeah, there's lots of really great stuff here. And I am going to take away a lot of things here. So good job.
I have to say thank you to the other judges. This is my image. And it's 1 in 50 or 1 in 100 that you get this sharp in a panning shot. And thank you to the Williams Racing team for giving me great color to work with.
This one's mine, right? Yes. Okay. I keep reading this as meal ready to eat, but that's an Army term, I think. Say what?
MRE.
Yeah, MRE, yes, an MRE. So I find this very successful. The sharpness of the fox, the fish is fantastic. The attention of the fox on the maker, the camera, the eyes are just everything. Beautiful color. The color of the fur is fantastic. The white background just is setting everything off. I don't think you could ask for anything more. We did have some discussion over the feet and the tail, and it is unfortunate that you can't see all the paws and all of the tail. That doesn't bother me a whole lot because of the strength of everything else here, but it is less successful. But lots of wonderful stuff here. And I don't even want to know how cold it was because that fish is obviously frozen. It looks like it came right out of the freezer to me. And it's like, yeah, that not my thing. Good stuff.
The eyes, it captures me. This is a fox, I hope, right? This fox is telling you that this is my food and you're not taking it away from me. And I find that that compelling. It's very clear that you can see the snow on his fur. Yes, you can't see all of the tail and the feet, but if this is in the natural environment, sometimes those are things you cannot control and it doesn't bother me. I like the fact that this stands out against a white background. Just, I think it's an excellent shot.
I'm going to say very successful image. The eyes are tack sharp. The camera must have just really locked on them. The fur is what you would expect of an Arctic animal. The stolen meal is great, but I cannot get over the missing feet and tail. It's clear what's happened to the photographer. There's a little rise in the snow in front of him. There's no way he could get up to get this image, but it still detracts from the image. But with that exception, and maybe the thing to have done would be to crop in tighter and show us only the face and the part of the body and the stolen fish and not suffer the criticism for the missing feet. I get to continue talking. Autumn at Caddo Lake. I'm a native of East Texas. I've never been up to see this or photograph it now that I'm a photographer. But I won't let another season go, another fall go without trying to be there. I even have friends from Alabama that travel to Caddo Lake to photograph it in the fall. When I look at this, I like the haze in the front. I'm not quite sure whether it's blurred foliage and stems. It doesn't really matter. It seems to add to the texture of the water, the little bits of reflective water, add to the story. The colors are very nice. It seems a little blue, but I love the foliage up high, the oranges. But as I circulate through the image, I find one distraction that just sucks me in, and I want to go deep and see what's in that little slot on the right-hand side, just the little bright spot back there. That could have been edited and brought down a little bit, so it's not as much of a distraction, or even fill that groove with a clone of one of the existing trees.
Having been to Caddo Lake, I would advise going around Veterans Day to get these kind of colors. It reminds me of having been there. The foreground to me looks like it's fog, because I saw that when I was at Caddo last year. I see the what do you call that? A gap in the right side between the trees. And I see that as an invitation to dig deeper into the photo. I mean, again, this is all subjective anyway. I like, the colors work well together. The bluish green color of the moss seems authentic to me because that's what I saw. To make any changes in this, I might have considered cropping off the tree that's on the left edge. But, to me, it's a successful photo.
Lots of good stuff here. I am not as bothered by that gap in the trees as Bill is, but I appreciate the perspective and I get it. The color palette, awesome with the orange, red and the blue, complementary, beautiful, strong. I appreciate the use of, I appreciate the fact that there's algae in the shot or whatever, if there's lily pads or whatever growing on the top that gives us a nice firm horizon that is in the bottom, at the bottom third point. I think is very strong. I like the mist. I like what the mist adds to the image as well. A great time of year. I got to go at the end of 22 as well. And yeah, if you haven't gone and can make it happen, it's worthwhile. It's a very busy time of the year. Apparently very, very popular, very photographed, but Caddo in the fall is quite something. So this is a great image, and I think really does a great job of representing what actually happens there and gives you a feel in many levels of the place. And I think it's very inviting and very successful.
All right, all right, we'll go through what the judges chose as the best images of those 5. So the second place went to Frozen Ready Meal.
So this was taken in Svalbard a few months ago. We were actually in a Zodiac, tracking a polar bear along the shore. We lost sight of him, and then this guy appeared. This is a blue Arctic fox. A small proportion of the population have a genetic trait that means they don't go silver in the winter, they turn a blue color. And when we first saw him, he had an entire fish in his mouth. He then was getting a little perturbed by these idiots in a Zodiac that were getting closer to him. He was about 300 feet away, and he hunkered down and ate the head, and then stood up and stared at us, which was when I managed to get this shot. At which point a polar bear came over the ridge and he dropped his fish and ran away. But he was good enough to stand still so we could get that image.
Okay, in first place is Lockup.
Thank you. I shoot at Coda every year and have shot there since it opened. And this is probably my best lockup situation or image. Through the first days of practice, this is common to see in the tight corners. When it gets to race day, they don't make this mistake again. I think the shutter speed was 1/125, which is kind of the right place to see motion and not have too much blur, and be able to hold it still, hold your track to get the text as sharp as that is.
All right, now we will go through the People's Choice Awards. And bronze goes to Lockup. And silver goes to Frozen Ready Meal. And the gold goes to Autumn at Caddo Lake.
Is Lewis here?
All right.
Yeah.
Is there any, oh,
Yeah.
Here.
So
Sorry, I had to unmute. Caddo's a great place to go. Nick and I have been there a couple of years, and I strongly recommend out there for several days at least. You got to have a good combination of cool weather in the morning, and then you can get some mist, but it's a real crapshoot to get that. We were fortunate to get some nice colors. So I was very, very pleased with this image.
all right, thank you.
cool. All right. Thanks, Lewis. So so as many of you probably know, I shot for a bass drop photo walk in January and the weather did not cooperate. So we're going to shoot for help me out, Carol. What's the name of the town? Thank you, Bartlett. I'm going to schedule Bartlett for the 10th of February, a week and a half from now, and go out that. I'm thinking I'm going to stick Bastrop on the 17th just for fun. So if you can make one or the other of them. But a couple photo walks coming up, and then we'll try to get some other stuff on the calendar as well. But I wanted to give you a heads up on the 10th, Saturday morning, 9-ish, probably something like that. It's a little bit of a drive. It's north of Taylor, about 30 minutes, 20 minutes ish. So, lots of great stuff there, I think, that we'll find. So, hope you can make it out.
It's one of the few cities around with brick streets.
Pardon me?
It's one of the few cities around with brick streets, Bartlett.
Right. Yeah.
Some
And like the
beautiful
old
old
buildings.
buildings. Fifth Thursday, our next meeting will be a little bit of a presentation and hands-on. So bring your camera, your lenses that are good for close. Bring your extension tubes. I will be providing light for the artificial light and simulated sunlight for the sunlight, bright sun shooting scenario. Like to say thank you to Ed and Ty for making this come together. Any other comments? Thank you.
Pardon me? Oh, okay. Excellent. So the question is, where are the photo walks listed? And the photo walks are announced through Meetup and on the Facebook page. And I need to get them onto the calendar and the website as well, but that's a two-step process. I need to get somebody else involved in that. If Meetup is free, and so join Meetup and you'll get notified when things get scheduled. And Facebook, if you do that, that's fine. I know a lot of people don't care for Facebook, but it is a great free way to advertise things to a fairly wide audience in the NAPfS group on Facebook. So, but yeah, Meetup is the other good one. Yes. Oh. She's asking if Arlie wants to share a little bit about her experience as a new judge.
A learning experience, yes. I kind of just took it from my point of view. I am not I'm not an engineer. I don't have a lot of Photoshop experience. So I did my own impressions and tried to follow. So they have some really good reading out on the website for NAPfS and a lot of good information. And I tried to follow some of those. And then of course I got lost in my own commentary, but I enjoyed doing it. I really did. So thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
You're welcome. I think that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.